Welcome, one and all, back for more AOE4 action. As this time, we've got Kasva versus Slam. That's right. I don't know why I went that loud. I was like, how does a slam go? It's slam! There we go. In the red, playing as Abrupt Dynasty, and he is up against Kasva on the English with the high ground, Anakin. Look at this. Look at this landscape. Clearly rigged. No, I'm kidding. The height doesn't matter as much in this as it does in AoE 2. Height is primarily for vision. It doesn't affect like attack bonuses, which I believe it did in AoE 2. Shout out to the person that will correct me on that. But yes, we have a matchup between a faction that typically we've seen a lot of the time, Eco Boom, versus one that always goes to that Longbow Rush. The interesting part is I feel more recently we've seen Abrupt Dynasty with a lot more flexibility. England, on the other hand, to me, is still very much a one-trick pony nation in the early mid-game tech order and build order, right? So I am kind of expecting either changes to happen to England in the coming weeks or new methods to be discovered naturally. But so far, I haven't really seen that much divergence from the traditional builds of Longbowman, Spearman, and Outpost Crawl, right? Whereas Abrupt Dynasty, what we've been seeing more recently, we've seen the eco booms, right? You can potentially wall up, you go for second TC. Of course, you then build into these much stronger benefits later with the House of Wisdom, where you can get quicker gather rates, research, and production rates. Usually, your early military presence is Spearman. The other thing we've been seeing more regularly from the high-level players is they go Spearman plus Horseman because they have a food surplus due to the fact that they build these mills which upgrade their berry bushes and they collect quicker from the berries. So it'll be interesting to see which way we see Slam go. Remember, when you're up against an opponent like England, you actually have more time to work with because their push-in is, while it can be potentially stronger if they hit a great timing and you're not prepared, it is much slower and much easier anticipated. And that is why Slam, look at this move. This is the difference, right? So he is going for some greedy eco, but he's doing it on the water. And he's the only person doing this. Kasva hasn't actually shifted across the water just yet. Keep in mind, he does gather quicker from these sheep, so it's not too bad for him to just stick on the food right now. But keep in mind, when you talk about resource limitation, this is going to become a factor quickly once you burn through these sheep. Not to mention the fact that now you have a second resource generation unit production building. That's a big word. I'm going to have to come up with a better building, right? But this is a resource generator, is the best way to think about it. Because now he's building fish and chips, so his food's going to come there, which means he can diverge his food supply in the base and then just strip it completely and shift across to both gold and wood, while his opponent is going to still be gathering with his villagers here. It just means that the value, eco-wise, is just going to be better for Slam. So Kasva, for me, he needs to hit his quick tech 2 timing, and then he needs to actually pressure on. The cool thing is, with these rivers being so thin, and with these fishing boats being so squishy, 9 or 10 longbowmen will basically just sink fishing boats. They'll get 2 salvos out before you get safe. So if Kasva identifies his opponent as doing this, he does have a quick counter. I just hope he actually gets eyes on this quick. It looks like he's moving the scout upriver now, so he might get eyeballs on the issue. But right now, he's more interested in gathering sheep. So this is a little bit worrying. I think Slam is getting away with this lack of info about what he's doing much longer than he should. But there's enough sheep back in base that I do think Kasva's going to spot this now. Don't click back to... There we go. Okay, he sees it. So now he knows what's happening. This should be the pivot. Slam doesn't see back, right? I don't think so. Oh, no, he does. Sorry. Yeah, Doc gives huge vision. So he has vision on this. He now knows he's scouted out. So now you should see some pivot from Slam, whether it's to go for an outpost. I would love the outpost play to protect it, or to get some early units out. I think in this situation, you don't really want to commit into early, like Spear, for example, just because the longbowmen count them. What I would expect is no more fishing ships necessarily coming out here. For a start, keep in mind these are bridges. They're not shallow crossings like this one. And the reason this is a bigger deal is it means that in terms of food supplies, which he probably identified as soon as the dock went up, there is only 2 sources here. There's 2,000 fish that you can gather. So if you keep investing in fishing ships, it's going to be wasted. What you can eventually do then with the savings is invest in more docks, right? Like if you come down here, I think there's 3 or 4. Maybe it's only 2, actually. I thought I saw a third. So there's 2 fishing here. This would be the best place, because I'm pretty sure there was 1, 2... Okay. I'm waffling then, because there's not a third. I thought there was a third there. But in general, these are still good to invest in. Yes, they'll eventually be gone. Yes, they'll eventually be wood burn. But it's like, what, 60? So he spent 120, and then, of course, he built the dock as well. So he spent 270. He spent under 300 wood to get 2,000 food, potentially, if he managed to drain this completely. All the while diversifying less what he's doing with his villages in his base, which should give him an eco advantage. Long waffle away just to cover the fact that they still haven't teched up yet. But Council Hall is going to be achieved. Meanwhile, in the House of Learning, it's going to be similar timing. He has gone for the Eco Wing, so we are seeing the Eco Boom again. There is going to be no early kind of pressure presence out of Slam. He will have to counter what Kasva is doing. But the cool thing about this is if he turtles up long enough that he surpasses his opponent stuck in the Feudal Age and gets to Castle Age, then Kasva's game becomes incredibly scary. And there's the tech up. So now he has the info. Kasva might feel he's ahead right now, but then in about 15 seconds, he's going to get the heads up that it's actually a lot tighter than he expected. And that might be the moment where Kasva maybe builds 10 longbowmen, but doesn't go hard past that, and then sees what he can do with the small skirmish before considering a potential tech up. So there's the tech up from Slam. Straight away, is he researching? No. So he hasn't got the gold just yet. I wouldn't mind... I feel like getting fresh foodstuffs really early is pretty valuable, right? It's half the cost, so you save 25 food. So especially in this early phase of the game, it can be a worthwhile investment. Probably better than... and a clearer like value than going for these gather rate increases, right? By the way, interesting to highlight, if you compare mid-level players to high-level players, I feel like the very big difference... I mean, there's plenty of differences. Like scouting, I think, is a critical one. But in terms of eco, the difference is these investments into research. I feel like I'm not very often seeing these pro-level players investing into the research early on. Nice move by Slam, by the way. Going to defend his fishing and then also get decent value out of the archer ship. So now it'll protect, takes out one longbowman. And this should just pay for itself in gather rates in the next 2 minutes for these two fishing boats. The fishing boats weren't that exposed right then, by the way. Keep in mind that the dock was repairing them quicker than two longbowmen could snipe. I think Kasva maybe misplayed his hand a bit there. I think if he built up to 6, 7, maybe even 8 longbowmen, he can outdo the repair and probably kills off the fishing boats before the archer ship becomes a good protection. And then you end up with a situation where Slam then has an archer ship, which to get value out of having, he then has to replace his fishing boats, right? So blacksmith being built. Slam, still no early aggression, still no second TC, but now he does have double archery range, so he's going to start building archers at an equal rate to that of England. Keep in mind the difference right now, by the way, is that because he's diversified his resource generation, he has access to more of a surplus, I'd say. Which means he knows that he can actually reach a point where he outmasses his opponent at this stage in the game in terms of military output. So he builds these two archery ranges, right? He'll be able to match longbow production. The problem that Kasva's going to have is because Kasva's shown no signs of getting out on the water, and his sheep are probably drying up soon, you should be able to match, if not exceed, the archery production that England has right now. And remember, we talked about this so many times because it is an important detail. If you are ever outnumbered as England and forced to run away with your longbowmen, you will just lose them. You will lose a lot of them, depending on how far you are away from protection. Because 1.25 movement speed on these archers compared to the 1.12 movement speed on these longbowmen. And yeah, look at the numbers already. So it's 9 to the 6, right? Yeah, 7. So he's already trickling an advantage here. And remember, it's a 7-second production speed compared to the 15-second. So in theory, you could stay slightly ahead if you were perma producing. The problem is that Kasva just doesn't have the constant resource treacle to do so. And how's the gold intake? I think they both ignored a lot of their gold. Yeah, there's a small treacle, but that's about it. And yeah, the movement incomes. Whoa, wolves. Doesn't do too much damage before being taken down. So Slam now moving in. We'll see the Council Hall. The archers went the other way, though. They don't want to get too close to this Dow archer ship. If they actually force an engagement along the shoreline, I really do favor Slam here, even with the numbers now being evened up. There you go. Archer ship. Doesn't have range. Remember, the Dow archer ship does not have enough range. It has 3.75 compared to the 7. So it'll always be out of range in this situation. Problem is the healing rates. Like, you should be able to keep this up indefinitely, just bringing a repair ship over with the fishing occasionally, right? So the Dow won't die, and this is all a distraction as he wraps. He's catching the longbowmen off as they try and reinforce. No campfire research yet, either, right? Oh, no, he did get it. There we go. It just wasn't shown because, yeah, we need to select Kasva. So he did get the campfire, so now he should be able to trade pretty well. And look at this. The moment you're forced to run away, that initial 1 or 2 extra salvos pushes you at a disadvantage. So Slam now needs to reinforce. He's got more archers coming in. I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of like a forward base, just so you can replenish quicker or quickly would have been good, but I went with quicker. Because quicker suggests that he needs to do it even quicker than normal. You're welcome for my broken English. Speaking of broken English, you know what's not broken? England. It's actually pretty impressive to think about. In the stress test, I felt like this was the nation that 60% of people were convinced were broken at least, right? Because of that longbow timing, right, with the battering rams. And the reason really, it wasn't unfair to make that assessment based on the matchups. For a start, it was very cheesy. But more importantly, all of the factions, all the civs that like directly could counter what you'd done as England weren't there yet, right? We didn't have access to France. We didn't have access to Rus. We didn't have access to any cavalry-based nation. Mongols weren't there either. But now that people have had time to react to it, not only was it obviously weaker against nations like France, but we're seeing players get very good at countering England, because England at this stage, I feel like people haven't evolved the English meta to be anything but longbowman spam. And I think a big part of that is the fact that the Tech 1 landmark is so limiting. You never go for Abia Kings. I don't think I've ever once in a high-level game seen Abia Kings get built. The Abia Kings, for those that are unaware, it's the landmark that slowly heals all your units nearby when they're not being attacked. So then, the reason behind that, by the way, is obviously this is your military producing building. You don't have to waste wood on building it. It produces them at twice the rate, and then also you get access to campfire, so you basically get Abbey of Kings in a mini form on your longbowman anyway. And what are you going to really be building before Tech 3? Longbowman and Spearman. So, yeah, Council maybe needs to be nerfed. I would really prefer they take the other route. I don't think England is so strong that they're uncounterable, as we see time and time again. I just genuinely think they'd need alternative options for like maybe an eco boom option instead of us just always seeing this all-in move. Nice move by Kasva, by the way. He's sniping out the deer while they're stacked. So now you place this mill here, and it's huge value. There's not that much kind of movement to actually get value out of it. And instead he goes for the King's Palace. So he's getting the tech up. I think Slam hasn't even started yet. Yeah, he's short on the food. He kept investing into these archers that are fully backed up now. He's at 22. Compare that to Slam, who's at 24, but he's already getting the tech up. So Kasva in a really good location here. Slam really failing to actually address the issue of having no kind of, forced aggression. And keep in mind, this is third TC. They both went double TC, but this is going to be the third one. So Kasva, the longer this game goes on, he's now at a huge advantage. Slam needs some sort of answer in Castle Age. I'm trying to think where he goes. Really, the problem with Abbasid Dynasty versus England is your unique camel units. Like, they have some value in the armor, but they don't get value elsewhere, right? Usually against England, it's still going to be primarily longbow at that stage of the game, so these camel archers, they don't get any bonus damage there. Camel riders are meant to counter cavalry, so you're not getting value there, and England takes ages to switch to cavalry even if they do. I think likely, if anything, you need a solution to men-at-arms. I would love to see Kasva go in on longbow at men-at-arms. I think it will counter most of the moves that Slam's anticipating, and then it will force Slam to go into a transitional period where his eco and his military might just be a little bit behind that of Kasva's. The Arway men are moving. Remember, Kasva can commit to early battering rams if he wants. He hasn't actually researched the tech yet. I think he has a blacksmith at the ready, though. Yeah, so he hasn't done siege engineering yet. He's getting the balanced projectiles first. So the level 2 one's going to make these longbowmen pretty potent, actually. Put them up to 8 damage compared to these archers at 6, not to mention the additional range. And also, with that tech up, remember, he can get access to superior archers, which he hasn't done yet. What? I would 100% suggest getting the Vet archers before going in like this, but he's still producing them. I don't know how I feel about that play. Then again, Kasva doesn't have the gold to actually make that choice at the second. Will be forced away by the double outpost. Nice play by Slam. So that'll alleviate any pressure Kasva can apply, because Kasva's still just longbowman. He needs to diversify right now. I think longbow spams is just going to fail in the long haul here. And there it is. There's the play stables. Trip stables. So he's switching over to probably horsemen, possibly knights. I don't think he has the gold production for knights. He definitely has the food production for horsemen. And look at this move out of Slam. So Slam, the absolute moment he hits Castle Age, he starts producing springles in the field. Because remember, this is one of the potent effects that you have when playing Abbasid Dynasty, is you can build siege engines in the field with your infantry and your archers. Really well played, really cool move. And this means that any move right now in the next 4 minutes by Kasva is going to be pointless. He's going to lose so many troops attempting it. And now, yeah, this is where I'd love to see camel support. I'd just love to see 1 or 2 camel archers, camel support, and then bada bing, bada boom. your army actually repels the incumbent force of Longbowmen quite well at that stage. This is also another reason why I do want to see diversification from Kasva. If you actually look at the blacksmith front, he hasn't even researched fitted level work. He didn't have to stop off for it. So his units have 0 melee resistance, but it just literally doesn't matter because Kasva is only spamming Longbowmen. I just don't... What's the pivot? Is the pivot good enough? So he's going for the Horseman. Understandable. We did say this a moment ago. He does not have the gold surplus to support a Nightline at this stage of the game, and he won't for a long time. He's ahead on gold intake, so maybe like he later on techs up again. He just needs to get his food situation sorted. As right now, he is vastly ahead of Slam. Slam's eco is suffering hard, man. Like, he has to know he's behind, right? Because he didn't see any sort of forward base here, he has to assume that the tech up into Castle Age for Kasva was done off the back of a King's Palace, which means that if his opponent was playing the way he did, he probably has second TC. It means that he's definitely behind now because he only has 2 TCs on Abbasid Dynasty. And that means that Slam needs a solution in the next 5 minutes. He can't wait longer. I don't think he can drag this out late now. I think his eco will be vastly weaker, and he has to know this. So movement forward. Trip Springer was good. Now, the crux in this is Kasva. Oh my god, yeah. So he's reading this really well. He's spamming out Horsemen, and I was about to say, the crux is, can Kasva hit the mass of Horsemen required to overwhelm the Springald defenses? And you can see it's a double down from Slam. He's going for more Springalds. So my worry right now is these Horsemen will be produced just as quickly as the Springalds are. Yeah, you're building these Springals out in the field, but this many stables, I think the spam that's going to come out from Kasva is just going to slam into Slam and pass right through him. And that's scary because he has zero melee presence right now. And he's not changing it. Look, Slam has literally no other type of military building at his disposal. So it's just archers. Wow, this is really a do-or-die moment for Springald. Like, Slam, it's now or never in his eyes, I think. When you invest in this many Springalds, without scouting as well, by the way, we haven't talked about, like, vision game. Look at this difference. Kasva has outposts. He understands how to play England. This was the way to play it. Look, now he's prepped where if he does take a win in his own base, he will trickle across the map and slam straight into your base with superior attack speed. And this is a scary situation for Slam. Slam, Horsemen charge in. And they're losing vision due to the Stealth Forest. They're going to try and retreat, but they're in. And the Lombos as well. They're wrapping straight around on the Springals to snipe them out. This is a huge investment loss for Slam. Full retreat. He can get out of range of the Longbowman, but he's going to leave the Springald behind. And his Archer line, it won't be decimated, but the Springald cost 1,000 wood and 1,000 gold just up in flames like that. Kasva now vastly ahead. And remember, he sent this Villi around. He set up these outposts. By the way, these outposts should have been spotted because I'm pretty sure Slam... Can he actually hear the ring of the bells? I'd have to test that. If he can't, this is going to be so depressing when he realizes it's there. Because it means now when you push in, you can just build a few battering rams and plow straight into Slam's base. So many archers. 50 range resistance, but it just doesn't matter when your opponent is firing 56 arrows a second at you. Good lord. Horsemen continuing. More Horsemen being produced as well. More outposts being built. Once again, guys, if you want to win with this strat as England, with any strat, utilize the outposts. Charge in. Disrupts the gold line. Mangonel at the ready. He hasn't stacked a formation yet. He'll switch over to it now. Decent damage done, but now they'll focus fire onto the Mangonel before it'll even get a second shot out. And the Horsemen deal with the archers in the meantime. So Slam has to fall back into a second TC. Plenty of outposts here, but there's so much to burn through. Still, no investment in siege engines just yet from Kasva. So he still hasn't actually gone for siege engineering. He still can't build the battering rams. He's just pushing in. He's disrupting everything in Slam's base. Slam does still have some eco working back here, and they are getting a decent number of these units that Kasva has. But Kasva, now with that disruption complete and the army burnt down a bit, will back up before he loses too many. And this is the moment where I expect a switch into battering rams. So more outposts go down. Are there any siege engines coming? Market being built. Monastery here. He'll trickle up. He really just needs to get some siege presence. I actually think if he goes in there with rams, which, by the way, what he could have done is he could have completed the market quicker, and then he could have sold to gain wood and then built 3 rams and ended this. Because he didn't have rams, he just can't get in, right? So he just kind of gave a breath of life to Slam that shouldn't have happened. That being said, Slam is still vastly behind. Do not mistake that. However, look what Slam is doing right now. He's hoarding. He's actually hoarding every... He told that so effectively, he's about to have enough for a tech up. And if he hits Imp Age before Kasva is ready to do anything, this will probably end up just pivoting back in favor of Slam. Because remember, while you've got advantage in Veteran Longbowman, 2 or 3 Mangonels will just destroy this quickly. If you get caught not looking for a fraction of a second, you lose them all. And look at all the Horsemen. They're all gone. He lost all of them. So this is the moment where Kasva now has to pivot, right? He's going to start building Knights because those Horsemen get melted way too quick under Trip Outpost and TC. The problem he now has is this staggers his aggression and will allow for a tech up. And I honestly feel like this game is heading to a point where once Slam hits tech up, Kasva might just feel lost. Also, keep in mind the other kind of balked thing here, by the way, is you saved money on Mangonels because you didn't have to build a Siege Workshop. So you didn't have to invest that 150 wood at all. It's another kind of crazy thing. I think people kind of overlook these things in big team games like 2v3, 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s. But in 1v1s, like saving 150 wood anywhere is a huge deal in the early mid game. And that's why I talk about it time and time again. That's why England always plays this timing and why it's so important, right? When you invest that much wood into Longbowman, like basically he's saving, especially in his early eco, he's saving 150 wood. That's free Longbowman. This is not free Longbowman, however, by the way. I'm not an expert counter, but according to my double-clicking ability, 71 Longbowman right now. Compare that to his opponent, who stopped actually getting archers at the moment, 27. Only 1 Maga now. What? He just GG'd out. That wasn't a sacred... What? No way. He didn't have vision on that either. That is one of the weirdest GG... Slam? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he had a doctor's appointment to attend or something. That is a shocking GG out to me. I actually think Slam wasn't that bad off. I honestly think if Slam continued on that trek, he could have easily taken over that game because Kasva was eco-locked. He was genuinely stuck in Tech 2 for a long time there. And the image was almost complete for Slam. I'd love to know what your opinions are, folks. I think if Slam builds one more Mangonel there and then just starts like transitioning to melee, he's strong. He's so strong. The outposts are hard to get through as well, and the woodlock, because of the constant treacle Longbowman, makes it very hard for Kasva to counter with siege engines. So interested to see what your thoughts are on that. I don't know if anyone was watching Slam's stream. I know he sometimes streams, but not frequently. Maybe they saw the reaction. But that, to me, that felt like a very weird GG. I honestly thought Slam was better off in that situation. Guess he just had a buster catch. I don't know. All right. GG to Kasva. Longbow spam wins for a very weird reason that time.